Trisha Paytas is not happy about what's been going on with the whole Colleen Ballinger situation. Things have gotten even crazier, and she's speaking out about the new discoveries that have been made recently about someone who spoke out against Colleen. YouTuber Swoop released a 4-hour video detailing things she uncovered about Johnny, someone who had come forward to talk about Colleen and her ex-husband Josh. This was at the time where everything was being said about Colleen, and he had detailed the time that he even worked with Colleen on her tour and much more, including saying he was groomed by Colleen's ex-husband Joshua. But Swoop uncovered that a lot of what Johnny had to say didn't actually have proof to back it up, and the details were getting a little fuzzy, as it seemed he had doctored some screenshots of the DMs that he had with Josh. He was leaving out context to his stories with Josh. He didn't want to show old text messages that they had. He was getting timelines of things wrong, and he was also exposed for being in group chats with minors as well. Swoop's video goes into great detail about everything. She is extremely thorough in her research. Her and her team did a great job on this video, so I'll link it below. It is 4 hours, but I do encourage everyone to watch it, especially if you've been following along in this whole Colleen situation. And I will also say that just because this has come out about Johnny, it doesn't take away from what has come out about Colleen. There have been so many others who've spoken out, and there is real evidence there against her about how she made people feel and the things that she was saying in group chats. It's mainly just the way Johnny had painted certain situations about his own experiences that has been discovered. Johnny was also the one to come out with the screenshots of Colleen sending him photos from Trisha's OnlyFans, which we know is something that wasn't a lie because Trisha had come out to say that Colleen did end up apologizing to her for having done that. So it is true that she was caught doing that if she's apologizing for it to Trisha. But since all of this is being talked about with Swoop's new video, Trisha wanted to say some things after watching it and address what's come out. She admits that this summer has been really hard on her, and she feels a lot of guilt and shame, believing that she had some part in traumatizing minors that were talking to Colleen and received messages from her containing photos from Trisha's OnlyFans. And I will say that a lot of people in the comments have told her that she shouldn't feel this way, and I don't think that she should, because she was posting that content on OnlyFans, and it's not her fault that Colleen decided to send that out to other people. But Trisha does feel a lot of guilt for even somewhat being involved in other people's trauma.
There is a lot of guilt that I feel. There's a lot of just guilt and shame that I feel that I had a part in somehow traumatizing people, minors that were involved because of my work as that, because of these images that I put out and produced as an adult, as a sex worker, have now traumatized children. Of course, allegedly unsolicited to minors. The only confirmation I did get was from Johnny Silvestri posting them, Colleen sending me an apology after apologizing for partaking in those conversations. I would also just assume that she was just talking about those conversations with Johnny. There was a lot of issue I took with that. There was a lot of guilt I felt with that because, once again, my nudes appeared to be unsolicited to this guy who worked for her, Johnny, who was an adult but looked like he didn't ask for them.
But it's clear this whole Colleen situation has really hit Trisha really hard, and she's really coming down on herself over not knowing these things about Colleen prior to working with her on that podcast that they were doing. She admits she first thought everything coming out about her was just the hate mob coming for her, but now she's fully aware of everything and not afraid to say that she does not support Colleen. She said when her and Colleen first started working together on the podcast, she had told Colleen the things in her past, the things that she might be getting some backlash for working with Trisha, and that she had been called out many a times. And she liked to warn people that she worked with, hey, there's people out there that don't like me, and they're probably going to come for you for this reason, and this reason. And Trisha says that Colleen said that she gets a lot of hate online, but Trisha didn't know exactly what, and she just feels such guilt for being associated with her now.
It's absolutely disgusting. It's something that I go to bed crying about. I have gone to bed crying about this summer. It actually, how I didn't see this, how I didn't, all of this stuff, I said this time and time again, Colleen and I were like surface level friends before I became a mom. And I mean that like we maybe hung out like a few times to film videos. I always like got along with her. I always thought of her as like this wholesome person. I've always said this, I didn't know much about her character. I didn't know like her Miranda character. I didn't know much about like her really. We never hung out on like extended periods of time for me to think anything of her, bad or good. And I wouldn't think that she would think that of me either, because we just never hung out that extended period of time. So once again, the shock of finding all this out is like very, very shocking, and like probably definitely the most twisted like events I've ever had with someone that I was acquainted with on YouTube ever. Like of all the shocking turns and twists my life has taken as a social media influencer, like this was the most shocking to me. Like having an ill opinion of me at all, the body shaming, all this stuff like that, I was just like, never would have thought, much less her like going in and taking my content and sending like unsolicited nudes. Like,
I will say that some people have noted that Trisha did attend a Miranda show before, and she was on stage with Colleen while Colleen was doing like her Miranda bit. So she had to have known to somewhat of a degree of what Miranda was all about, and that they did kind of spend some more time together than Trisha is letting on, especially since Trisha vlogged her experience and her being on stage. And one of the things she had to do was to impersonate Miranda, and she knew what to do. So she definitely knew about Miranda as a character, but I honestly just think it is one of those things where Trisha didn't think it was problematic till it affected her. Obviously, she had seen that Colleen was getting called out, but I don't think that it was until like she was affected that she really took a step to look into everything. And unfortunately, it did affect her, and Colleen, being someone that she viewed as a friend, was sending her OnlyFans to people and making fun of her. Like, that is just horrible, horrible, horrible. Trisha keeps just talking about how she feels really guilty for not knowing things sooner, and for even having a little ounce of a part in some of this, because those are her photos that people were sent.
The more stuff that comes out, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with myself sometimes, because again, it brings up this guilt of being a worker. It brings up this guilt that I was like friends and like talking to and like supporting this person who was like really a monster when it comes to this stuff. You know, I go back and forth with like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to feed into it, but it's not drama. And I think people take this like lightly, which I said before, this isn't something to take lightly. This is very serious. This is someone in a power position, like doing this to minor and just feeling like it's okay, you know, like, well, they were jokes, they were this. But even if that's how you felt at the time or still feel, like there's a very real 16-year-old girl who feels traumatized by this, rightfully so.
In Swoop's video, it was also revealed that Johnny had posted the screenshots of his text conversation with Colleen, where she had sent Trisha's OnlyFans in order to get Trisha to speak out. And even after she had seen them, he didn't really want to take them down. And Swoop was really encouraging him to take them down since they've, you know, seemingly served their purpose. But he was kind of hesitant to take them down. He had also admitted to saying negative stuff about Trisha and her OnlyFans and her working with Colleen, judging her for the kind of content that she posted. And this all coming out really affected Trisha, feeling like she was being used in this whole situation.
To be used to degrade and humiliate me as well, which is what I'm very clear now. That's what Johnny was doing, was to humiliate me, force me to talk about something that I wasn't necessarily a part of or didn't feel comfortable or safe talking about.
At the end of the day, she does not support Colleen whatsoever and doesn't believe that any of this has been cancel culture. She thinks this is something that is really serious and that Colleen should get some help.
I think this is something that's just like not forgiven, should not just go away, should not just be pushed aside as like jokes or like, you know, desperate or I'm a loser or whatever. It's like, no, this was like, there's something wrong with you, like get help. And I mean that like out of love as well, because there's some sicknesses and you can't hurt people with those. You have to like get yourself better. And there's hurting people and then there's hurting children. And I think hurting children is just an absolute no-go.
And since we're talking about Trisha and Colleen, I talked about how recently Jason Nash found himself in some trouble after he was on a podcast and he was asked how he stays so positive despite all the drama that he's been in, like Trisha calling him out and in the Jeff Wittick situation. And in his answer, he brings up drama and says that, you know, Colleen, for example, you know, she had a misstep, and he tried to diminish the situation and make it seem like people were just overreacting about her. And Trisha wanted to throw some shade at him, saying this in her podcast because she very clearly views this as a big deal and not some tiny little misstep like Jason wanted to call it.
I do have to ask you a question.
Shoot it.
You know, I've always wanted to know, like, how do you avoid the negativity? You know, when it's like you have people that you dated for a little bit attacking you, you go to McDonald's on the day a new item is supposed to be released and they don't have it at all the McDonald's that you go through, but somehow you kind of just rise above, you stay out of it. And, you know, how do you do that? Like, how do you manage to just stay so positive and level-headed throughout everything?
Honestly, it's like McDonald's, okay? I go around to all the McDonald's to try to find the new menu items, and sometimes it's just a game I'm not going to win, you know?
Even McDonald's has missteps sometimes.
McDonald's has missteps.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something I will say about Trisha is that through all of this, somehow her podcast has been something that has been able to thrive. I think that when the whole Colleen situation went down, everyone was like, well, there goes that. But Trisha was already with a new set, a new co-host, and somehow she's getting these guests on her podcast. I think somehow in the universe, there was some sympathy for Trisha or something, because the way her new podcast is actually kind of more on brand for her. And I think it's working a lot better than anything she would have done with Colleen. Like, them doing a little mommy podcast, okay. But this is definitely more up Trisha's alley, where she's talking about hot topics. Her co-host Oscar is really invested in it. He's doing the research. I just feel like the dynamic is better. It's more professional, and I don't know, she seems happier in my opinion, and more herself on this one. I think when she was doing it with Colleen, she felt like Colleen wasn't problematic and she was the problematic one, and she was like nervous of disappointing Colleen or it not working out, and well, it didn't work out, not for anything that Trisha did. But I think that Trisha was so worried about ruining it herself that she couldn't fully be herself on that podcast. And in this one, she could totally be herself. I think oddly, she ended up right where she needed to be. But that's what's going on with Trisha. That's what she had to say recently about everything in the Colleen situation, the updates on it, feeling guilty about not knowing all the details of Colleen's past, and feeling like she had traumatized people who didn't want to see her OnlyFans. There's clearly a lot of feelings that she has about this situation, but that's what she had to say. Once again, I will link Swoop's video in the description because it is a lengthy, good, well-researched video that really explains everything that has come out about Johnny and the whole Josh situation and Colleen and everything. So definitely go check that out. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.